Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, my name is Simon Good and I'm a professional workplace mediator and trainer in conflict resolution skills. I use this channel to provide free resources and tools for dealing with conflict, related to workplace conflict a lot of the times, but also situations outside of work. And today I'm going to be talking about 5 different ways that we can apologize. What I'm going to do is to explain the 5 different types of apology and what they look like, and then go through 3 different examples to sort of give a little bit of a demonstration of what each of the different options that we've got would look like in action. I find that these case studies are a really helpful way of explaining some of these things because it's like when I say it, it might sound like, oh, that's so formal. There's no way I would ever say that in my context. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like very academic mumbo jumbo, whereas I work on a construction site or something. Whereas if I dull down the language and talk in a very direct way, I think then other people are thinking, gosh, I could never do that. That's too assertive, or that would be classified as bullying or something like that. I mean, I don't think apologies would probably be one of the categories that would be mischaracterized as bullying, but like it often does seem a little bit unrealistic without the case studies to put a little bit of flesh on the bone. So I've got 3 different examples that we're going through, looking at different contexts, and I've tried to find different levels of seriousness and formality, if you know what I mean. So an email mix-up versus a retail setting and that kind of thing. So let me just pull my iPad over and I'll get ready so that I can write the notes to explain the first section, which will be these 5 different types of apology. So I think this is an area where a lot of people really struggle with when it comes to conflict. How do we repair when there's been an incident or something that's happened and we're looking to get the relationship back on track? It can be really challenging to know what to do. And you might even be in a situation where you feel like you've apologized to someone, like you might have even said sorry or I apologize or something like that in a very direct way, but they still seem upset. So as I explain these 5 different kinds of apology, you might actually find that 1 or 2 of them resonates with you more than the others. It's likely that maybe 1 or 2 would be the kind of thing that you like to hear when you've been wronged or somebody's done the wrong thing that's affected you in some way. And if you've already apologized to somebody else and they're still angry with you, obviously my advice would be try one of the other options. And I suppose one of the ways that we can supercharge our apologies is to combine all of the different elements into one. And, you know, it's like a cluster attack kind of thing versus just more of a laser focus of they just want the word sorry, if that's the kind of person that they are. Well, that's the first kind of apology, I suppose, that we've got, is just saying something like, I'm sorry. More formally, it would be, I apologize, or I'd like to apologize on behalf of the company. I'd like to apologize, or something like that. Less formally, it might be, sorry, mate, my bad, or whatever, you know, some kind of an acknowledgement like that. And for some people, this really matters to them. When I'm doing workplace mediations, I'm sometimes a little bit surprised, to be honest, at some people's tenacity that they just want an apology. They just want, it really does matter to them. It means something. They didn't even apologize. It's often a real chip on their shoulder that somebody carries around for a long period of time. And that's the thing. It's like, were they even sorry? Do you know what I mean? And if they haven't apologized, well, then how do we know that they are? And what does that mean in terms of closure and you feeling guilty or letting go of some of the guilt that you're carrying or whatever else might be going along with that? I suppose the reason why someone wants an apology might actually be quite a complex and maybe even quite a subconscious process actually, but it does matter to some people. So that's the first option that we've got, I'm sorry. The second way that we could apologize would be to say something like, I was wrong. You know, I shouldn't have done that. Really my bad. I messed up. I dropped the ball there. I missed the deadline. I meant to do that and I forgot, something like that. And again, this is something that some people really want. They just want you to admit that you were wrong. They just want you to take some responsibility for the thing you've done, I guess. I know for me, when my son actually says I was wrong, that was my fault, I should have done that differently, it really almost makes me want to go and comfort him. Whereas if he says, that wasn't me, you never told me to, mum never reminded me. Oh, I tried to pick up the plate, but there was ants on it, so that's why I left it there. And I'm like, ants on it? Well, what do you think it's like for me to pick up the plate? Don't you know that I've got to pick it up with ants on it? Like, it just escalates the tension and escalates the drama and the conflict. Whereas if we say something like, look, that was my fault, it really does not leave a whole lot of room for them to continue the barrage. They might a little bit. yeah, it was. I've told you that before. And then if you respond just by saying, you're right, yeah, you have told me before, I know that, yeah. Or just, yeah, I know, I get where you're coming from. Like in a genuine way, not condescending, like, yeah, I know that. That sometimes sounds a little bit defensive, doesn't it? Well, it's likely that you'll get a different reaction from the person that you're talking to. So that's the second option that we've got. We could say, I'm sorry. The second option is we could say I was wrong. The third option we could say is something like, I won't do it again. Oops. Like this isn't going to continue moving forward. You could say something like, I've taken these steps to prevent it from happening next time. You could explain why it's not going to happen again. We've allocated a different staff member or something like that. I can't talk and write at the same time, so just give me a moment. So I'm going to write, it won't happen again. It's kind of like I won't do it again, but it's more about the thing not happening. It won't happen again. And again, for me, this is the one that I really want to hear. I don't care about you saying sorry or not. Like I'm here for problem solving. So if you're just going to give me some platitude around, oh, we appreciate that this has caused some inconvenience for our customers or something, I just see red. I seethe. It makes me so furious. Whereas if they say, we've taken these steps to prevent it from happening, we've set up this emergency system to make sure that you're not stuck with, you know, the masses of other kind of people trying to contact us because we prioritize you, you're important to us. Of course, this then creates a sense of engagement, a sense of connectedness, a sense of being listened to and having your needs acknowledged. The fourth way that we could apologize would be to say something like, I'll make it up to you, like some type of a reparations, if you know what I mean. I've learned I'll write it down first before I continue talking. I'll make it up to you. Like, you know, I'm sorry that I did this thing earlier this morning. I've bought you your favorite muffin from the local cafe. I'm sorry that I messed this up next time. Like, and I've caused extra work for you. Is there some task that I can do to help you out today? Something like that. And then finally, the last one would be something like, can you please forgive me? Now, I'm not so sure that this is one that you use very often in a workplace setting. I don't know about the context that you're in, whether it is. If you're working in the kind of place that describes the team as a family, then maybe can you forgive me would factor in a little bit more. For me, it would feel a bit weird to ask my colleague, I think, to forgive me. But it might be something like, what do you need to see or hear from me to move forward? Not move on. Don't forget it. We're not implying that they need to get over it. It's what do you need to move forward from here? What do you need to give you the sense that this issue had been resolved? Like something like that. It's kind of like, can we agree to just turn the chapter here and start a new one together? Because, you know, my goodness, this one hasn't been particularly pleasant for anybody involved. So I've done the exact opposite. Move forward is a much more helpful phrasing typically than move on. Move forward implies it's this next step in the journey, and it doesn't, I think, cause people to feel like you're asking them to dismiss or minimize or let go of something that they might still feel really hurt by or really upset about or really angry about or whatever the situation is that you're dealing with. So how do they look to you? As I've gone through those different examples there, I'm sorry, I was wrong, it won't happen again, I'll make it up to you, can you please forgive me, or what would it take to move forward? What do you like to hear? Like it's likely that one or two of them that would resonate with you more than the others, and that's likely then to become your default way of apologizing to other people. Like for me, I really like to hear that it's not going to happen again, and so of course that tends to be the default. I've explained why it's not going to happen again. There's no point telling me that you're angry. I mean, I've told you that I've taken steps that it's not going to happen again. Why are you still upset with me? It's not going to happen again. They want something else. They want you to admit that you were wrong and just acknowledge the fact that, you know, it did cause them a whole lot of extra work today or extra headaches or something. Or they want the sorry. Maybe that's the thing that matters to them. Maybe it's they want flowers or they want a day off in lieu of the extra half day that they had to work this day because of something that you've done. Like it would depend on the situation, but do you see where I'm coming from? That as we start to pull apart these different options, it inherently then creates this, I think, a bit of impetus to brainstorming. So let's go through a few of those examples like I mentioned, and then we can maybe just talk through how would they be applied in each of these different contexts. So the first one there, I'll just make sure that it's visible on your screen, hopefully. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if this is something that's useful for you, if you're interested in more videos with this format. It's sort of a little bit interactive with me talking, but we're looking at something on the screen, etc. as well. So I suppose it's a little bit closer to formal training than me just talking off the top of my head about a particular topic or something. And if it's useful, please consider pressing subscribe. So during a team presentation, Sarah publicly criticised James's work, assuming it was his mistake. Later, she discovered that the issue was caused by a software glitch, not James. She now needs to apologise for unfairly singling him out. So how should Sarah apologise in this kind of a context? Have you been in this situation where you've made an assumption and run with it and assumed that it was somebody's fault and later on it's turned out that it's something else? This is my number one. I hate it when it happens, but it happens quite frequently as a dad. You know, I'm saying to my son, why didn't you do this? I told you to do it or whatever. And he's like, I tried, Dad, but there's some good reason why. And then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I probably should have slowed down a little bit and asked you why you didn't do it versus just jumping down your neck straight away kind of thing. And that might actually be a situation that you've been in, because I've heard every now and then in the quiets of, often it's in the break during a training seminar or something, someone will come up and admit to doing this. And how come? It's probably just because Sarah's under the pump and under stress, and she's got a whole bunch of other things going on as well. So what would the I'm sorry look like for Sarah? Let's go back to those types that we wrote before. You could just say, look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have jumped the gun there. That was, I apologise. Number 2 would be something like, that was wrong. I should have stopped and checked my facts first before assuming that you'd been responsible for. You might even add something there too, like, there's nothing that you've done, by the way, to make me question your capacity. If I would have reacted the same way, no matter who was the other person that was working with me on that day. I'm sure it probably felt personal because I was literally talking to you directly, but I don't have ongoing concerns about your performance. That might not have even been something that's on your radar, but I just want to offer you that in terms of some level of small assurance at this stage. It won't happen again. That's an easy one. That's like, next time I'll do my best to come and check with you first before jumping the gun. I'll make it up to you. This would depend on their relationship, I think, and what would actually matter to them. But there would be maybe a bit of work that Sarah might be able to offer James to do for him, or I don't know, some thing that he likes that she could offer him, or giving him a lift home if he normally catches public transport or something. It would depend, but it's like, can I give you this nice thing because I'm thinking of you? It's not like I'm wrapped with guilt. It's like, would you let me do that? And that's the phrasing that I like to use there too, is, would you let me buy you a muffin? Would you let me take you out for lunch? I feel really bad. I'd really be grateful if you would let me do that. And then the final one, what needs to happen to move forward? Maybe that would be not in the moment, the next day, for example, talking to him and saying, I'm sorry about that, mate. Hey, look, is there anything that you wanted to say to me, or anything that's still sitting there for you? Or are you happy just to let it go? Like, if it's a pretty informal kind of thing, I'd probably just keep it a bit informal myself. But what do you think? Would you escalate this one or keep it as a bit more casual, a bit more, colloquial language, etc.? So the next situation, we're looking at Alex accidentally scheduling Taylor for a double shift on the weekend without checking first. This caused Taylor to miss an important family event. Alex realizes the mistake and needs to apologise. So what would the I'm sorry look like here? It would probably just be like, I'm sorry. You could say something like, I didn't realise, or that wasn't my intention, I suppose, could go along with it as well. Let's go back to the types so that you've got them in front of you. I find this is a helpful way just to reinforce it, flicking back each time, but I don't know if this is too much repetition for you. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. If I'd known that it was on, I would have picked a different weekend. We don't want that to come across as blaming though. If only I'd known. Why didn't you tell me? Obviously that might be coming across as implied criticism. And if that's the way that the person receives it, it's not likely to calm them down and make them feel better. It's more likely to stir them up and probably make them feel worse, probably a bit frustrated or something. I did tell you. It won't happen again. Well, yeah, that could be another option that we could use. I just want to give you the chance to have any input before we finalise the next month's roster or something like that. Or are there any particular dates that you'd like to have off? I'd be happy to work around you next time round, that kind of thing. That might be number 4. And then forgiveness, move forward. Similarly, we'd probably just say something like, what do you need from me? Or is there anything I can do? Or, look, I'm so sorry. Is there something that I can do to make it up to you? That kind of thing. And then finally, the corporate, I'm sorry, I keep saying that kind of thing, and these little, they're my versions of the ums and ahs now, I think. I've worked on the ums and ahs, and now I need to fix all of the different ands and all of that kind of stuff. So the third example, a corporate email. Priya sent an email to the client and accidentally copied in her colleague Mark on a reply meant to be private. The email included negative comments about Mark's approach to a recent project. Priya now needs to apologise to Mark for the oversight. So how should she do this? Well, it could be something like, Mark, I apologise. Like if it's a very formal setting that they're working in, that's the reason that I wanted to include this sort of a corporate one as well. It might be just, I apologise. Let's go back to the types again. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. It won't happen again. This is what I'm going to do differently moving forward. That could be, again, a suggestion about changing the structure or some method that she's going to use to prevent the problems from coming up later down the track. She could say something like, I'll make it up to you. And if you're in a position of authority, the good news is that you've got a whole bunch of more options that you can use for rewarding someone, like giving them a bonus or a day off or moving things around in a way that fits them in terms of work schedules or something. And then finally, forgiveness and move forward. Again, here, I'd probably be thinking more about the move forward question. Look, that wasn't my intention. It sounds like you're still upset about that. Is there anything in particular that you would like to see me doing or saying that would give you the sense that I was taking it seriously? Or what would you need in particular to consider this matter to be resolved? I just find that's a really nice way of doing it. If the person's still upset, obviously, and holding a grudge, instead of telling them, get over it, and then the invitation, of course, is no, the option would be, what do you need to do to get over this? And it's taking a bit of responsibility. What do you need to see or hear from me? Is there someone else involved that I'm not aware of? Is there something else going on that I'm not aware of? Because, I know that happened and we acknowledged it and talked it through. It seems like you're still upset about it. And the last thing I want is for this situation to continue moving forward. So can you give me a bit of guidance as to what kind of things you might need in order for this situation to move forward? And then full stop. And then, of course, it's prepared to be dumped on. They're probably just going to give you a mouthful and get angry at you and tell you all of the things that you probably have done wrong. Not just recently, but probably a collection of things that's been built up, and that's fine. Or maybe they'll say, yes, I'm being a little bit overly dramatic or something and agree to move on. Or maybe they'll talk about, I don't know, going through a divorce at the moment and separation and not seeing their kids or a difficult ex-partner or something. And so then they might have a different set of options that you could coach them through as well. But to me, I just think that this is a much more helpful way of opening up the conversation and beginning to talk about that if that is the case, versus coming at it from this critical, like, you're doing the wrong thing, what's wrong with you type of approach, which then, of course, the result often is defensiveness. Anyway, what do you think? And how have you found this format of doing it with the notes and that kind of stuff? If it's been useful, please consider checking out my other videos, I should say, first of all. I've been putting up a few lately and they've all got a slightly different flavour. So if this was something that resonated with you, you might find that my others do as well. I don't know, but I'd be very much open to feedback as well. I'm sort of trying to put out these resources in a way that's useful. So I'd really like to hear from you about what kind of tweaks I could make or, changes in terms of format or my approach or that kind of thing that would make it more useful. Let me know, please. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in a future video. Bye for now.